All right. Well, if I have everything timed out correctly, this episode should go up on Monday, September 5th, 2016, which would be the 50th birthday of our beloved friend, Jamie D'Alessandro, a.k.a. Jamie D., a.k.a. the Shiznit pimp. This is Brian Chrisman, and I also have with me...
Shane Kelly.
Chris Eberly.
And Danny O'Brien.
Just an informal gathering, because I wanted to do something nice for what I think is a very important milestone. It was his 50th birthday, and of course we lost Jamie to cancer back on May 2nd of 2014, and the 2 anniversaries since then were just not fun, and I wanted to do something nice. So this episode is going to be sort of, low-key, just sort of giving listeners some of our favorite memories and thoughts of Jamie, and I'll have a couple of clips split in. I'll have some of the other geeks. I've got to leave other messages and recordings, get those in, and just a fun reminiscent kind of thing. So I was going through some of the old episodes to get some clips, and I came across this clip. This is, I think, like the second episode after I left the show back in October of 2013 when Jamie was taking the reins. So this is how the show sort of started out.
Uniting the world's mightiest heroes, this is...
I'm Jamie D. I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Brian Deeman.
Come again, speak.
Damn it, now I see what's wrong. Okay. Professionalism right out the window. We're going old school all the way.
Here, Eli, bark.
CTS Raw.
F Pants and all his editing. Screw that.
It just made me laugh thinking about Jamie trying to, oh my God, that's you, Pants.
I think he went, Pants and all that editing. Threw his arms up a little bit.
So how did he, because he was taking over the reins of the show at that time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't around for much of that. How was he, how did it work out? I mean, it sounded pretty good. Everything.
Yeah, we did good. He added little clips from cartoons along the way, which were hilarious, like Warner Brothers things, Bugs Bunnies and Daffy Ducks and such. No, that was fun. It was neat to have his little take on everything, and he just plopped something in the middle of an episode if it was appropriate, or even when it wasn't. It was good.
And what was to piggyback on what Shane was saying, as we all know, Jamie loves music and musicals, so there'd be music clips and musicals.
Singing.
I remember when I did the Marvel Monsters Spotlight, which was the first spotlight I did when he was in the producer's chair, and he prepared the whole Monster Mash theme.
Yeah.
And he started the whole, and they also had like Bugs Bunny talking about monsters, like
With
it was funny. And I
Gossamer.
talk about this. Jamie D technically wasn't really good as a producer, but in terms of like bringing the passion and like the fun, it was fantastic. Like you'd often hit the wrong button, or there'd be these massive delays and stuff like that. But he just made up for it with just that great sense of zeal and fun for the show. So that was great.
Oh, I didn't really listen to those episodes, but now it's like I kind of want to hear it. It sounds like that's a lot of fun going on.
They were a lot of fun. We had a good time. He would throw in some clever things at the right time, and like I said, even not at the right time, just made us laugh.
Didn't he have like a Deceive the D segment? What was that?
Oh boy, I don't remember that. Oy.
I seem to remember like
that didn't. I don't think we did it that often. If I remember correctly, and Shane, please correct me if I'm misremembering this, but you were trying to trick him with, was it pop culture knowledge?
Yeah, that sort of sounds right.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we had Muddle the Merds then yet.
We did not, no.
Yeah.
So it only ran, I think it only ran a handful of times. But
he had such a love of TV. I mean, he turned me on. I had bypassed Babylon 5 altogether, and he turned me on to that after talking about a couple things. And I know MASH was one of his favorites, which then got me back into watching reruns of that when I would see it. He loved West Wing, which I had never watched until talking to him.
Really?
Yeah. I had no interest whatsoever. And that's one of my favorite shows of all time. At least the first 3 seasons. The rest kind of suck. But no, he did a lot to influence some of my viewing of TV shows, which I thought I had a pretty good handle on things I had watched, but there were things I bypassed, and he's like, "Oh, you should really watch that."
Hello, geeks. My name is Mark Buxton. I'm a longtime comic book fan, longtime listener of you guys. I also write for Comic Book Resources, Den of Geek, and the source at Superhero Stuff, Your Pals. I also have an article coming up in Back Issue, which you guys plugged. It's the Living Mummy article. It was quite a thrill to hear Chris get excited about something that I have written. But I'm not here to talk about me, even though I already did. I'm here to talk about Jamie D and his 50th birthday coming up. I don't know you guys. I never had the honor of meeting Jamie. I've never had the honor of meeting any of the geeks, but I'm also a private tutor in the New York area, so I do a lot of driving. And you guys are constant companions on those drives. Jamie D was. You guys are. Like I said, I never knew you, but we do know each other because we all love the same stuff. We're all around the same age. And when I heard a few years ago that Jamie D left us, it was like losing a piece of this community, of this shared consciousness that is a love of comics from every era. There's a lot of us out there. Hopefully we're growing as the 20-somethings and teens get into comics through films and television and what have you, and the characters that we love are evolving and changing, those fandom. But us fans of a certain age, getting older, who share the love of what we share, though we have never met, we share a bond. And part of that bond was lost when Jamie D was lost. And I miss hearing his voice coming out of my car speakers. I miss his insights. I miss his love of comics and everything that we all share. And it's hard to deal with losing part of that. And God bless you guys for keeping his memory alive. And I could only imagine, there's a hole in your lives, and it's shaped like Jamie D. And I'm very sorry that you guys lost a friend. Because we lost an entertainer. People on my side of the speaker lost an entertainer and a voice. You guys lost a friend and a brother. And I'm so sorry. And I wish he could be here with us. And every time I go to a movie, seeing Civil War or any of the movies or watching this TV, I think of people like Jamie D who can't enjoy it with us. So I think we should enjoy it for them. Jamie D is in that category of people like a Mark Grunewald or an Archie Goodwin who never got to. As Jamie D would say, I am one wordy bitch. This is Mark Buxton again, and I was in the middle of leaving you a voicemail and a Jamie D memory, and she cut me off. And so I will wrap it up on what I was saying about every time I go to a comic book movie, I think of those we have lost, like Jamie D, like the Mark Grunewalds and the Archie Goodwins. And I wish that they could be enjoying this golden age of superheroes and comic books and everything, a second golden age, a media age. But you guys are keeping the memory alive. You're going ahead, even though one of you fell. And us on this side of the speaker greatly appreciate it. Thank you for making my ride pleasant. Thank you for keeping the passion for comics alive. With all the negativity of the internet and everything, you guys are the voice of happiness. And I wish Jamie D could be here to see everything that's happening with the industry and how you guys are growing. Though I've never met you, I love each and every one of you because you make me smile whenever you guys have a new show out. About to listen to the Thor show. It's going to kick 19 different types of ass. Keep it up, guys. God bless Jamie D. May he rest in peace. And may he look down on us and be proud of the hobby we have created. Thanks, geeks.
One of the things I just always remember is him and Sal had just a great relationship back and forth. They could just talk about anything.
And nothing.
And nothing, yeah. I mean, of course, I remember the last time that they got together, we went up to Fan Expo Canada in August of 2013. Actually, I drove up with Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
And Sal was there at his booth. I just remember, Jamie would be at Sal's booth just talking, hockey or football for it seemed like forever.
Yeah.
And whatever. And we actually, all three of us, got to go out for dinner one night to come.
Oh, nice.
And that's just, again, it's one of those things just to see the two of them together out, I love just being a fly on the wall for that. So, that's the kind of things that make me smile when I think about him,
I know he was when I first started going to Golden Eagle, it was at the Berkshire store. Once in a very blue moon, I would go over to Fairgrounds, but I was Berkshire because that was where I traveled more often. And he didn't work over there all that much. So at first I didn't know him as well. I knew John and Alex, who had worked there almost every week. But at one point, let's see, this would have been 1996, after Carlene and I got married and moved into an apartment. And I think that Christmas or right after that, I had, quote, the comic guys over, which at that time was Peter and Alex and John, Mike. I don't think Tyrus was around then yet. Scott and Jamie came because Alex and John said, hey, why don't we bring Scott and Jamie along? Yeah, sure, I don't care. And I think that's really the first time I hung out with him was back in 96, 97, early 97 at my house, just having to get together where we were just talking comics and cartoons and just sitting around shooting the shit and eating. And that was it. And that started somewhat of a tradition of doing it almost, for a while, every week at somebody's place. We would go to Kevin's house. We would go to my house. We would go to Peter's parents' house in the basement. It was just a rotating thing to go around. And then eventually that evolved into Peter telling trivia. Then we started the game. Then he drew up questions on note cards. We brought my friend Jamie from Allentown, so he became Jamie of Earth 2 because two Jamies can't be in the same room at the same time. And it just started this every week or at least every month tradition of getting together and just talking comics and cartoons, watching a movie, playing games. I mean, and it was, sometimes Trivial Pursuit, sometimes whatever DVD game was coming out. It was a lot of fun. And we did that for what seemed like years as time progressed on. At one point, I think I was the only one married. We moved into the new house. And then we started doing it in that basement more often because it was a bigger space. And it didn't intrude on other families, or it was more central to other people. I can't quite remember why we had it at my old house so much, but we did. And it was a lot of fun. It was great. It was something I wish we would have recorded or videotaped at least a couple times, and we did none of that. We just sat around.
Who knew? You're just having fun.
Yeah. Before anybody had kids or anything like that. So there was a lot of free time.
Time people that I know or people who listen to the show post on my wall, and I said how much I love Valiant. Maybe I should stop with the big two. I should stop being suckered in with the big two. All of a sudden, Jimmy Palmiotti posts on my wall. He said, "Don't be suckered in by companies. Pick the good titles and go with that." And that kind of rang true to me. It made me realize that, damn, I am a slave. I looked at my list and the stuff I'm buying that I'm behind in with the big two is just so much. So I'm off on a total tangent now.
No, I let him go. Let him go.
But it's to the point now where I've like I said, I've had an epiphany. I've come to a conclusion. I'm going to start looking for other books. I mean, Valiant has been filling my needs for superhero comics, and my money is going to go more towards indies than it is going to be the big two until maybe something changes. Somewhere down the road, it's got to change. They've got to come. It's got to come full circle somewhere, and it's, as Pants said, there's like a seismic change between the companies that we've been bashing and the companies that we're now accepting as books that we like, and it swings. I mean, I've seen it swing 2 to 3 times since I really started collecting back in like '84 when I really seriously started collecting. And each company tends to go through good times, it tends to go through bad times. I think right now DC is at a bad time, and they can come to a good time, I think, if they just realize we aren't in the '90s anymore. And Marvel is at a point where I just wish there wasn't the big crossover. I just wish there wasn't the next big thing. I wish they would come to realize that let's cool it on that for a little while. Let's let the books tell the stories. And I don't want crossovers within books either. I mean, there's so many books out there I want to read, and I just keep the miniseries of the week comes in, the crossover of the month comes in, all this kind of stuff. I have to stop, and I do apologize. I really went on this tirade, but this is so cathartic because this is like the straw that broke the camel's back. I've just decided, and I'm not going to make any kind of whacked out statements like I'm never going to read Marvel again. I'm never going to read DC again because I know I will. I won't make those dumb statements, but they're not going to get my money. They are not going to get my money to do these things unless I really hear some great things about it. I can't keep. The only way to affect change is to stop.
Right, vote with your wallet,
and that's what I've decided to do. I don't know if I'm going to start, the comic book tea party and people will follow me and and do that, and I don't expect people to do that. But I need for people to hear that. I need for people to know I still love comics, and goddamn, there's some good stuff out there.
I'm remembering now the first time I went to Pittsburgh Comic-Con and you guys were there, and we had met in 2006 when I came on your show because Ryan discovered, because I'm a Cro-Magnon, so I knew nothing about podcasting, and Ryan told me about your show, and I came on a couple times to advertise Wild Pig and to do interviews, and I clicked with Jamie right away in terms of the kind of comics he loved. We clearly had very similar taste, and I remember the first time we all met in Pittsburgh, remember a year or so after those interviews, if not sooner. Shannon, remember this, we all went to dinner.
Yep.
And none of you had been exposed, of course, to my laughing fits.
No.
And to the fact that I take it as a point of pride to act as a comedic muse for all of my close friends. And for listeners who don't understand that, what I mean that is I, because of my nature, demand to be made fun of by those who know me. I would never accept people who don't, but by those who know me, I get a huge charge out of acting as a comedic muse because I frankly completely deserve it. And I remember sitting at a booth, and Jamie sat down with us. I think Jamie Hatton was with me. Danielle, you were probably there, or a booth over, something like that. And okay, thank you. And Jamie D just got it right away, and he was right on board with the humor, the jokes. And, as Shane can attest, and Pants and Daniel, everybody, when I get into a laughing fit, forget it. It's like a rabid hyena. And Jamie D was right on board with that. And, it was just so obvious right away he was just my kind of person, like someone who not only I would enjoy just talking comics with, but would just enjoy their company in general. And that only became more and more apparent as the years passed.
As time went on, Jamie moved into a house. Now, as much crap as I have in my house, and I always like when people would come over to hang out and see it or look through it, talk about it. Ever since high school, I'd have friends come over, start rummaging through whatever comics I had out or whatever toys or whatever it was. Jamie had as much affection for anything Star Trek as much as I did. And I can remember when he finally got his house kind of set up, he had everybody over. And a bunch of us went over, and it was like walking through a museum with every room having so much collectible stuff just everywhere. There was a comic room, there was the movie room, there was the Star Trek stuff down in the basement. Inside the basement, inside another room, was all the Star Trek figures hanging on all the walls. It was just phenomenal. It was a lot of fun to go walk around and see for the first time, and every time after that too. But that first time's always the most fun, and he was all kinds of proud to be able to show it off, to have so much out to be able to show off. That was a lot of fun. I wish we would have perused a little bit more and dug a little bit deeper in a lot of stuff. He had so much stuff. Some of it we just kind of were able to glaze over because of touring the house. It was neat to see the stuff he had because everybody's different. I mean, as much Star Trek stuff as I have, he had a ton of different stuff that I'd never seen, and he had a bunch of autographed pictures at one point, and he had stories of how he met all of them. Just like I did. I didn't have near as many, but we figured out, even though I didn't know him, and this would have been from like 93 to 95, I think, I would go down to the Valley Forge Creation Star Trek conventions, as did he. So he would be telling a story about somebody he saw there and maybe got their autograph. And I'd be, well, no, wait a minute. I did that too. And then we'd figure out that we were at the same show multiple times seeing these people. We just didn't know each other then. So I'm sure I passed him who knows how many times in the aisles without knowing him at that point then. But it was fun to realize that as time went on. We were talking Star Trek stuff.
And Shane, to piggyback on that, it's a great point because, and you saw this all the time on the show, his passion for these various entertainment mediums, whether Star Trek, comics, Muppets, Star Wars, TV, films, etc. It always came through in everything he was doing, whether it was on the show or if you're having a private conversation with him about it or what have you. And that's one of the reasons why, first as a listener of the show and then as someone who became a member of the cast, how he was such a linchpin of everything. Because one thing I want to say about Jamie D, that I think is fundamental to the kind of person he was. Jamie D was not full of shit, okay? And we all know in our lives, personally and especially professionally, you meet people full of shit all the time. And some of them are people you would want to take home to meet your mother. I mean, and this was a guy, when I think of him, I think of the words true, I think of the word integrity, and I think of the word honorable. And whenever you engaged with him in any way, shape, or form, you were getting full on the person he was. And that came out both in my personal interaction with him as a friend and also just listening to him on the show and then being a part of the show first as a guest and as a cast member with him. And that's, for me, one of the great honors of this whole CGS experience is getting to know him as a listener, then as a castmate, and as a friend, because this is a guy who deeply loved everything he was talking about on this show. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the main reasons why this show has lasted as long as it did is because of the passion he brought to the show. I mean, think about his arguments with Peter, which are legendary now among us, and many old-time listeners know that. I mean, and again, as entertaining as those are when you listen to them, that also is an example of just the passion he brought to what we were discussing.
Hey, CGS guys, it is Ian Levinstein. I figured when I heard Pants's call for voicemails in honor of Jamie's 50th that I'd go ahead and send you in something with a little bit higher audio quality so you could hear my dulcet tones, because I know how much you guys love hearing my sexy, sexy voice. Anyway, one of the main Jamie D memories that immediately comes to mind for me was back in 2013 at the last Super Show. Now, it had become tradition even before there was a Super Show, back when it was just, Comic Geek Speak episode events, for us to come in at least a day early before the event was going to take place so we could hang out and, have a good time and get to see people a little bit. And this was the Thursday night back in April 2013 before the event was going to take place. And at that point, Deemer didn't live in the neighborhood anymore, so we couldn't meet up in his basement because I think the people living there would probably have an objection to that. Anyway, we wound up going to Buca de Beppo and wound up calling it about 17 different names the entire night along the lines of Buca de Pepsi and Super de Soda and Buca de Breadsticks and stuff like that. But, of the Italian chain restaurants, Buca's pretty damn good. And they're huge, too, which helped because I think about 8 or 9 people wound up RSVPing. We wound up with like 15 because that's the way it always works. And Shauna and Jamie were 2 of those people. And we sat down at this huge table. We'd made a reservation, and they wound up changing our reservation to a much bigger table in a different room. And directly behind us was this golden statue with a visible dick. one of the like Italian style old school statues, and Jamie was one of the first ones to point it out. I'm sitting directly behind it, and and we immediately called it the golden penis statue, and that became the running joke for the rest of the night. And I'm looking at my Facebook now of me with my 2 thumbs up with the golden penis statue directly behind us, with Jamie's comment on the photo that it's the name he would use to send in letters to Penthouse, because that's the type of humor that Jamie had attached to him at all times. And I will never forget the sense of humor that he had, and the dirty humor that he can have at times, because dirty jokes are the best kind. Am I right? Right? I'm sure Chris is in the room, so I'm sure he's going to 100% agree with that, with all of his sexual innuendos and whatnot. Jamie was my boy. I freaking loved him. And here's to you, Jamie D, and the golden penis. Shalom, CGS. Talk to you guys soon.
Hey, geeks. Long time no speak. It's Lynn from just south of Memphis. And I was listening to you guys talk about Thor today, and was working around here in the Bat Cave and thought I'd give you a call and talk about Jamie D. Hope I'm not too late, but best I remember about Jamie D was we were both the same age. Both of us were, kids of the 60s there, both born in the year of the Bat, 1966. So, we got along really well, and I enjoyed talking to him at Third and Spruce. Like I said, we were both, same age. So his passing really made me think about my own mortality. And, you start getting up, you start pushing 50, and things don't work the way they used to. And, you start seeing the doctor more and taking more pills and all that kind of fun stuff. I saw my dad, went to visit him, and he had all these pills laid out. And I was like, oh, good God, Dad. And, 2 years later, I've got the same amount of prescription drugs and stuff I'm taking now. So take care of yourself, guys. But long story short here, my fondest memory of Jamie is at episode 300, where I believe it was his niece that showed up in a Spider-Man outfit, and it cracked me up. And I guess it's his niece. She wore a mask, so who knows? But I'm sitting here looking at a picture of Jamie holding her in the Spider-Man costume, and he was a proud uncle. And I miss the big guy, and miss hearing him on the show. So I'm looking forward to hearing some old spots with Jamie in it, and wish him happy birthday. Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later. And like I said, I don't talk or see you guys as much as I used to, but I still do listen. So from the Batcave, signing off. Talk to you later. Bye.
I was listening to the episode we did early on. I want to say it was episode 25 with all the cartoon theme songs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Peter had made up 2 discs of tons of cartoon theme songs. And I know most of them. I don't know that Jamie knew a lot of the 80s-ish toy-related ones that I would have known. And we finally get to, like, the B disc or something. And Peter called it that just because it was the second disc, not because they were substandard or anything. And he said something like, well, Jamie, now we're to the ones you would know. And there was this big sigh of, oh, okay, now we're into my stuff, not this toy crap that was made just to sell toys or something like that. And, oh, my God, I would love when he would do something like that. Call it like it is. Cartoons that sell toys. Ah.
Well, Shane, think about our fun G.I. Joe debates.
Oh, yeah. 12-inch G.I. Joes for him, man. Hands down.
And Pants, actually, one of the best episodes we did when he was in the producer's chair, we did a top 5 Christmas presents we got as kids.
Oh, that was a good one, yeah.
and that was a great idea. I think it was his idea, right,
so
on his
too.
part. And he was extolling the original G.I. Joe line from the 60s and the 70s. And we got into that playful debate about, real American hero versus, the original, like Kung Fu Grip, taller
Fuzzy
G.I.
face.
Joe figures. And always that wonderful, playful banter where he'd, like, lovingly put down what you liked because, his stuff was obviously better. And that was always a lot of fun.
Well, and there were the debates with Brian. He didn't like Northlanders or DMZ.
DMZ.
DMZ was the big one. Northlanders, I don't think he was too fond of either.
That clip is going to be an episode here, the DMZ clip.
The DMZ one's a riot.
Somewhere with Swamp.
I have not been more positively affected by a comic. I mean, DMZ, that is so phenomenal. Crazy. You must be reading.
I was so bored with that.
That's because I don't know. You're not into like political stuff or whatever. Like
I am fine with political stuff. Where was the political stuff? There was nothing there.
What the whole thing?
It was
all
boring as shit, and it didn't explain anything, and I don't want to know any more. So
Pants
I
back
mean,
up, you don't want to get in the crossfire.
at least
can't
had
be
it
talking
been
about the same book.
At least had it been a little bit interesting.
A little bit interesting. It's a war. It's a civil war with Manhattan as the DMZ. You can't get any more exciting than that. and interesting.
Explain it to me a little bit because they didn't explain it to me. I need a little bit more than that.
There's a war. There's a civil war.
From a man who needs
two halves. In the middle
why?
is the
Why?
DMZ.
Did they tell you why?
Who cares why?
I want to know why.
Who cares? There's a civil
Okay,
war.
from the
How
man
much
who
do you
just
need
reads
to know?
things at face value, okay, I understand why you would like it.
And
because
Manhattan
it's very
is
simple,
abandoned, and no
there's
one is allowed to
there's
go
nothing
in or out
deep
of
about it,
Manhattan.
and there's nothing in it.
Peter, you've lived in New York, right? How could you imagine if the
There's,
island?
there's nothing deeper than face value, so I can understand why you like it.
See, that rarely happens between Jamie and Brian, so we all just sort of like sit back.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've been friends for so long. We usually agree, but there's sometimes when he. I mean, I bought that because of you. I honestly bought that because you gave it such a huge review. I finished reading it, and I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? This is like crap.
Bango!
I've been holding that for a while. I've been waiting for
really great hostilities bubbling to the surface.
Outstanding.
I know in one of the shows, and I'm sure it was told multiple times, not only by me, but there's one where he tells it, and I love when he tells it. I should have thought to really search out when it was, but I don't even know where to begin to find it. Where he says about the first Wizard World Philly Con I went to, where Palisades was premiering the Muppet figures. And I went on a rant about, I'm only getting Bunsen and Beaker. That's it. I can't get sucked into this thing. And I got sucked in so badly. And he loved needling me about that. Oh, it was a riot. It was great how he told it. I'll have to maybe search it the next day or two, see if I can find it. It was really good. And he's right. I got sucked in.
Pants, one thing I always loved about Jamie was how he'd rag on you.
No.
And,
but, gosh, how am I going to tease this? There is one thing I am planning on doing that at the same time, it's cool and making me nervous as hell. So
you're going to have a woman? No, I'm teasing.
There's two things. All right.
And to me, that was first as a listener, and then when I was part of the group, that was always such a delight because, man, he just he knew comedically how to push all your buttons.
He sure did. And I'm usually a pretty easygoing guy, but every now and then, not necessarily because I like have a bad day, and he would just not know that. And I grumble. He, without fail, would reach out to me, would call me and say, "Hey, how are you doing? Everything all right?" I mean, I didn't go too far. I mean, to do that, I mean, come on, that's just.
Yeah, there were times he'd keep going, and when we're recording in Brian's house, and I'd be like, "Oh, maybe we better stop." Chances starting to, the veins starting to pop out of his head a little bit, and Jamie, and he'd keep going, and then he'd follow up. And, "You all right?"
He's a sweetheart of a guy.
He sure
Well, he
liked
did
to
that
push,
often. I remember. I'm sorry, Shane. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say he sure liked to push Pants and Peter's buttons, boy. Oh, boy.
But I remember Matt telling a story once. I think he told it on the air after Jamie passed. How they had a conversation like that, and Jamie called him to say, "Hey, is everything okay with us?" Like again, that's the kind of guy he was, and you know, when I talk about Jamie D to people, I always say, you know, he's one of the best people I've ever known. Like just one of the finest men I've ever met, because he had that sense of integrity and dedication to his family, his friends, and to his passions. And he was genuine, and you don't see that often.
You know, Pants told me about this a couple weeks ago, and it was one of the hardest things to come up with something good to share. Some things are close to the vest, but I knew there was one or two things I wanted to say about Jamie as we would be celebrating his 50th birthday this year. It might run a little bit longer than some of the other stuff, but I'm one of the original 6 members of the show, so I think, fuck it, and I'll run a little bit longer if necessary. One of the earliest memories I have with Jamie was we were doing the show. It was probably within the first year, and we're doing a previews episode. And I think they were re-releasing some Rob Liefeld issue or something, but it had the Captain America with the eagle instead of the A in his head. I remember pointing it out, and for some reason, Jamie just said, "Yeah, so what? What about it?" And then we went on, and something else I threw out there, he had kind of a similar type of comment. And my response back at that time, because it was a bit of a hothead, was, "Why don't you just go fuck yourself?" or something along those lines. And at that point, I was just done with the guy. And then a couple days later, I get an email from him, and the first thing I thought was, what the fuck does this guy want now? I pull up the email, and it was essentially just, "Hey, not sure what happened the other day. Are we still good?" And I remember thinking, wow, I didn't think it got to that point. I didn't want to talk to the guy at the immediate time, but I didn't think to the point where he actually had to send me an email making sure that we were still good. So I responded back that we were good, and whatever happened. We just moved on from it. I would be remiss to not include another story about Jamie, something a little bit more upbeat. Right after the birth of our first child, Sophie, in 2013, the way things were going, I would stay there at nights with Meg and Sophie, and then during the day, when my in-laws would come to the hospital, I'd go home and I'd take a little bit of a nap, a shower, I'd eat there, and I'd just come back a little bit later in the day. And when I came back, I can't remember if Meg was awake or not, but it was just her, Jamie, and Sophie. And Jamie was holding Sophie and just taking her in. And I was just joking with him a little bit, and he had just mentioned that he had a nice conversation with Sophie, and that he let her know that even though he doesn't agree with the sports teams that Sophie's parents root for, that we were still good people, and that he knew that she would be in good hands. And I wish he would have been able to see her grow. I mean, it's only been a couple of years, but she's grown leaps and bounds. And I remember seeing how Jamie interacted with Shane's children, and even to Brian's to some extent. And I just know Sophie would have had a blast hanging out with Jamie at our get-togethers. And I wish he would have gotten to meet our second child, Evan, who was born earlier this year. And I can only hope that he knows that with Evan's name, there's a little bit of a nod to him. And then just a little reminder for us. In addition to the Captain America shield that I have in Evan's room, is kind of just a little reminder of essentially the first friend that I lost. I can honestly say there's not at least one moment, nearly on a daily basis, that's something that doesn't remind me of Jamie. From the days that I run and I'm losing steam and I see a cardinal, because supposedly a cardinal's, when one comes near you, it's supposed to be someone that you know, keeping an eye on you. Seeing a cardinal fly near me when I'm losing some steam and just a little mental picture of Jamie saying, "Come on, you son of a bitch, keep going," almost like in a Mickey type of voice to Rocky. Keep doing it. And to anytime I see anything with Captain America or just some of the stuff that him and I didn't necessarily agree on, just a little reminder of Jamie. And I continue to take that with, and it's not the same without you. To some extent, I like to think that I've tried to become better and think about future more than I had with Jamie, and I wish I would have got to spend more time with him, specifically at the end. He was a great guy, and he's taught me a lot in life and in death. And I wish he was here, that we could have given him a proper 50th birthday celebration. But hopefully there's a lot of good memories that have been passed on into this episode for people who have met him, have interacted with him, whether it be online or at cons or over the phone, and some people that have just never met him, and maybe it'll inspire people to go back and try to listen to some of older episodes where Jamie was there. And there's some good Hallmark episodes that I think people would enjoy. So I think this would be a good point for me to stop recording, because I'm kind of rambling at this point, and I think moving forward I'll just sound more like a hardo where it's all about me when it's really not. But I do want to say I look forward to our adventures in the next life. Hopefully I make it to the same place as you, Jamie, and this isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a new book in the series. Stay well, my friend. And happy 50th birthday.
Yeah, I don't think there has ever been a day that I haven't thought of him in some way. Whether it be something I watch, a picture I look at, a comic I read. If I'm at home upstairs, I have a picture of us in Brian's studio. And he's sitting in a chair right in the center, and I hung that above my desk. But there's just, it's impossible. There's just not a day that goes by that I don't think of him in some fashion. A piece of music, a musical, an instrument, a joke, a movie, something. Always, every day triggers some kind of memory.
Hey, geeks. This is Brian Bear calling in from Washington. Used to be on the forums. I'm really not anymore. Hopefully I have made the cutoff for the Jamie D. Memorial Show. Just wanted to call in with my memory of him. I met him briefly at the first London Super Comic Con, because I was living in the UK at the time, and went out to the big dinner with him and everybody. Ended up I didn't really know anybody, so I ended up just getting sat next to Jamie. And he just kind of said, "Hey, what have you been reading? You know, what's going on?" And I was telling him, I think it was about the New 52 Wonder Woman that just started. And I was just going on and saying, "Oh, it's so great. All this great stuff's happening," and telling him. And he sat there and he was kind of nodding along. And when I finished, he said, yeah, I'm probably not going to read that. And I laughed about that for several years. I think it's great you guys are doing this show. He was fantastic in the brief little bit that I got to talk with him, and I know he meant a lot to a lot of people. So thanks, you guys, for doing this. I can't wait to hear the episode. Thanks.
Happy birthday, Jamie D. This is Chris Brawley, known as the Brawlinator on the forums. And I just wanted to say that, Jamie D., you, of all the other geeks on the show, always reminded us to enjoy what we enjoy and to stand up for what we believe. Plus, if there's a monkey on the cover, it's probably worth a buy row at least. I don't know what made me most fond of Jamie D of the CGS crew, but maybe it was his attitude or his passion or his taste in comics or his unique voice. Maybe it's because my only brother's name is also Jamie. It's probably a combination of those things, but suffice to say that Jamie D is my favorite geek. Jamie, on your 50th birthday, now that you're no longer with us, I just wish to say that I'll always remember you for the passion and humor you shared with the world when it comes to geek culture. And I want to tell you that you'll always be present in our hearts and in the podcast archives. May we always remember to forget the things that made us sad, but never forget to remember the things and the people that made us glad. Happy birthday, Jamie D'Alessandro. God must have needed some Captain America comics up there.
And now, before we started recording, Dan and I were talking about the monkeys, and Dan was mentioning how we actually got to go to a concert all together.
I was buying tickets for me and my mom because my mom was a huge Monkey fan when she was a kid, and then, they were rerunning it when I was a kid, and then we both kind of, I fell in love with it, so I was like, if we have to get the tickets together, and it was so close to our house, and then I must have mentioned it to you guys, and then you were both like, gotta go. So, it was a really sweet experience to, be able to have the two of you come up and then go with me and my mom to the concert, and then the two of you, spend the night at my house, and we all watched Head together, which was just a crazy experience. And I think I'll never forget Jamie meeting my cat, Selena, because my cat is horrible. She is a lovely, lovely bundle of fluffy fur to me and Bill, but everyone else she despises. Hates with a passion. And Jamie, walked in the house and looked at her and was like, hey. And was at one point, she, came up to him and was kind of meowing at him. And he just stood up and hissed at her so loud. And it was oh my goodness. And then since then, she was so, hateful towards people that it got to the point where when people came in, we're like, okay, so one time our friend hissed at her, so please don't go near the cat. Please don't approach the cat.
See, I was getting ready for this heartwarming. The cat warmed up.
Oh, no. Cat is horrible. She's lovely, but, oh, God, she's horrible. Our cat is horrible. I love her dearly, but she hates everyone except Bill and I. And Jamie was like, I don't care. I'm not afraid of you. I don't care that this is your house. It's so funny.
And I think earlier that year, didn't we all go out to Denver together? You, me, Bill.
Was it the same year? I don't know if it was the same year, but we did all go to Denver together.
Everybody jammed in one room.
Yep. Bill and I packed an air mattress, and Bill and I slept on an air mattress on the floor. But that was fun because I got to, hang out with Jamie a lot that whole weekend, and then we all did dinners and breakfasts together a lot. I remember me, him, and Murd and Bill went out to dinner to this Polish restaurant, and there was, a prefix course that you could do, and it came with shots of vodka at the end. And me, Bill, and Jamie we just did shots of vodka, because why not? Because he's not going to drink it.
Hey guys, this is Big Jim Miller calling from Vancouver, BC, Canada, just with a message for the Jamie 50th birthday show coming up. Back in 2010, Paul French and I had the honor of taking Jamie to the Hockey Hall of Fame in downtown Toronto. Some of the CGS guys were up in Toronto for the Fan Expo that goes on there every year. And I came out from BC to visit Paul and his family and hang out and see you guys. And Jamie was just recovering from his first bout with cancer, slowly making his way back, and was doing really, really great, but still needed to walk with a cane. And Paul and I decided to take a break from the con and take Jamie to the to the Hockey Hall of Fame. It was a really special moment. I'm not much of a sports guy, but I could tell how much it meant to Jamie. And the three of us got our picture with the Stanley Cup, and it's a photo I still treasure to this day. Another thing I'll miss about Jamie is even on some of the old episodes, even if he wasn't talking, you could still hear him breathing. And it was kind of comforting to know that he was there. Jamie, I miss you, buddy. You may be gone, but you're definitely not forgotten. And I love you. I know that you're happy with all of us still reading comics and preaching the gospel wherever you are. Thanks, guys. Bye.
I know Jamie and I drove to a lot of places together, cons, movies, the mall, whatever. But my favorite ones were when we started going to Baltimore together. And that was probably the last 5 years before he passed or so. Those were a lot of fun road trips. I think one time I took one of my boys and he took one of his nieces. I think we did that once. But yeah, we always had a good time driving back and forth to Baltimore. It was a good trip, something to look forward to every year.
And he was always great with kids.
Oh, yes.
I mean, whether it was his nieces, his nephew, your kids,
yeah.
Brian's kids, Matt's kids. I think Chris's kids. Just they seem.
Oh, yeah.
They just seem to have an affinity for him.
Yeah.
It was just.
He was like the big fluffy teddy bear to go hug.
Well, one of the last times Jamie, when we did the Daredevil Silver Age spotlight, it was one of the last episodes he did. I had to bring the boys with me, and Jun kind of went up to him and hugged him, and I remember Jun felt really bad when he passed, because you're right, he had that teddy bearish, like your loving uncle type of demeanor. And Shannon, you just reminded me, speaking of road trips, and Daniel's going to know what I'm talking about. We went to, she already knows. So Shane and Pants, you couldn't join this. We went to Pittsburgh when they had the Alex Ross exhibit.
Yeah.
Was the Andy Warhol Museum, Danielle?
Yep, it was.
Yeah, okay. So I had, been with Jamie D at a different place, but I had never stayed in a hotel with him before. I wasn't aware of his legendary epic snoring. So it was, the hotel room was me, Danielle, Bill, Ryan, and Jamie D. Who, as was typical of him, he slept in a chair. And then Deemer got on.
He couldn't sleep in a chair. That was the problem. He slept in a bed. There was no chair.
Okay, thank you for correcting me.
Because if there had been a chair, he would not have snored.
That's right. Thank you for correcting me.
It just would have been quieter.
And Deemer got his own room with Tasha. And so, we're all kind of cramped in. And I remember Ryan saying later, like, I'm 40. Like, why am I still, like, sharing a hotel room with, like, 6 people? But, that's what we did. So we're all, like, I'm in a bed with Ryan and Danielle and Bill. I think, are you on the hallway or something like that?
Air mattress.
Air mattress. So it's December. It's cold in Pittsburgh. And Jamie, bless him, starts to snore. And I never experienced this before. And it is some of the most gargantuan, powerful snores I've ever heard in my life. And it's not intermittent. It keeps going. And I remember Ryan and I are, like, sharing this bed, and and this is all comedic, of course. We turn to each other like, shit, this isn't stopping. And it got, like, hours went by, and I couldn't sleep, and I was at the point where I was going to get up, walk over all the bodies prostrate throughout the room, and go to my van in, like, mid-December. It's, like, 20 degrees outside to sleep in it because I couldn't sleep. And comedically, I was just in awe of this snoring. Like, it was amazing. Like just the sheer power of it. And but eventually he was able to fully get to sleep, and it subsided. But it was just a great comedic moment of that trip. And that was a great trip, by the way. Just the drive and, the pranks that were played and, the exhibit. And, obviously we met up with Dan there. It was a great time. But, hey, Danny, hope you're doing well. But that's a great comedic memory.
I think between a couple of the first times we stayed together would have been – Pants and I stayed that first year in Pittsburgh. It was just you and I in a room, and everybody else was somewhere else. But other Pittsburgh trips, as well as New York trips to the New Yorker, where we're all crammed in a room, between Pants getting up at like 4 a.m. and sitting there staring at us, waiting, and Jamie's like, "I'm not moving yet," but snoring all night. It was some of the funniest stuff going on that I can remember, all at the same time.
I remember one New York con. I mean, I knew you guys by then, so I came up to your hotel room. You guys were all getting ready to go, and you were all like in this one room. I don't know how the hell you all did.
We had some pretty small ones there.
Yeah, and I remember Peter was primping and preening in front of the mirror to get ready before he went on the floor of the show, and Jamie just having a field day ridiculing him, as like Peter was like getting his shirt just right and his hair and so forth, and before he hit the floor of the con. But their dynamic, I just got a huge charge out of, because there was obviously a lot of love there, but there was also that sort of vitriolic banter, because they clearly had very different perspectives on a lot of things, and just different styles. And God, it was hilarious.
Peter liked to poke the bear.
Play out.
Hi guys, Eamon Clark here. I'm going to be brief with my thoughts about Jamie D, as I'm sure others will have many similar memories. But like so many others, I can thank you on CGS for reigniting my passion for comics, and in particular for persuading me to start attending conventions, which was something I had never done before discovering your podcast. And of course, it was Jamie D's oft-repeated advice to go and meet the creators you admire and thank them for their work, which really inspired me to start attending comics events. And as a result, I've met so many of my heroes, and I've made so many new friends. I got to meet John Wagner and Carlos Esquera, the creators of Judge Dredd, and I even had the pleasure of buying them a pint afterwards in the pub, which was just simply splendid. One of my fondest memories from comic events. As you guys know, my younger brother Michael died of cancer 4 years ago at the age of 48, which I'm sure we can all agree is far, far too young. And it was thinking of Michael and of Jamie that got me to start raising money for cancer research by getting comics signed by their creators and then raffling them or auctioning them for charity, and all the proceeds go to cancer research. Mostly it's British comics, and of course 2000 AD in particular, and I'm very pleased to say that in the last 2 years I've managed to raise £3,000 for Cancer Research UK. And the other inspiration I've taken from Jamie and the rest of you guys on CGS is that I now have my own little podcast where I invite guests on to discuss 2000 AD books with me, because, as you know, it all comes back to 2000 AD. And that's a project that I'm sure I would never have started if it hadn't been for Jamie and the rest of you on CGS. So I'll just wrap up by saying that I'm thinking of Jamie, and by saying the Brits remember and the Shiznit pimp abides. Cheers, guys.
Hi, this is Ryan Drost giving a call in regards to the celebration for Jamie D. Royal Lantern on the forums when I have the luxury of time to be on there. Just wanted to pass along probably the best advice I ever got from Jamie D, and that was his advice to everyone about meeting, when you have a chance to meet somebody that you admire their work or you really appreciate something that they did, that you take the time and the opportunity to meet them, because you just never know when you might have the opportunity again. And that became extremely true last year at Baltimore Comic-Con. I'm a big fan of Darwin Cook and loved his art, loved New Frontier, brought my New Frontier Absolute Edition with me to Baltimore Comic-Con to have him sign it and to meet him. And there was oftentimes when he wasn't at his table to do a panel or just being pulled aside for different things. I went back 5 times before I finally had the opportunity to meet him. He was super nice, extremely appreciative of his fans, signed my book, and I had the opportunity to talk with him for just a few seconds, but I absolutely loved it and was so grateful I did that. And then when he passed, I heard about him passing, I was like, you know what, if it had not been for Jamie D giving me that advice on an episode of CGS, I wouldn't have gone back 5 times. I probably would have just said, well, I guess I'm not going to meet him this time. I'll try to get him next time. And obviously there wouldn't have been a next time for me. So it's the best advice I've ever heard about when you go to a convention or you're going to some type of outing. And I pass it along every time to anyone else that I know that's going to a convention. I'm like, if there's someone there that you really want to meet, that you really appreciate their work, make it a point to go up to them, even if it's just to shake their hand and to thank them. So thank you very much, Jimmy D, again, for the best advice I could ever receive. And you're sorely missed, but you're certainly celebrated. Take care, guys.
I think he and Scott, who's been on the show as well, both came over when Ben was born and brought over all kinds of presents for the little teeny tiny Ben that was holding in my arms, and sat with him. Jamie held Ben and Matt without problem or question. He loved, like you said, loved kids. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think there's a couple pictures in each of their albums the first time Jamie came over and kind of met them. And with Matt, so Ben is Benjamin Matthew, and Matt is Matthew Joseph. And Jamie comes over and says, Ben and Matt, well, it's either The Thing and Daredevil, or do you like Ben and Matt Damon? Or Ben Affleck and Matt Damon? I'm like, not really, we didn't think about that. Crap!
Well, one thing I would say, and it may come across as a downer, but I don't mean it as a downer, I mean it's celebratory. I should share for listeners a little bit about the last time Jamie recorded.
Oh, yes.
Which was just with me.
Yep.
Because nobody else was available that
It was
night.
Easter Sunday.
Because it shows his love and dedication to this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe I'm pretty sure it was an off the rack.
Yes.
So I think one of them was that Daredevil 1.5 pants. Remember that one with that Wade did? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. So whatever reason, nobody else could do it. So which it happens, but I was available, so I said I'll do it with you. And he could barely speak. Like he was in really bad shape at that point. And his father drove him to the studio because he was determined to record the episode, right, and get on and have it done. And I remember I said to him, Jamie, if you want to do this another time, because he really couldn't speak well. He said, no, I want to do it. And we did the whole thing. And that's just an example of how much Jamie loved Comic Geek Speak and how dedicated he was to the show and his love of comics and the medium and how much he enjoyed sharing all that with us and with the listener base and celebrating his passion and love for the medium. And, this is a guy who, in hindsight, he was in really bad shape when he went to the studio. And he still did it. And I remember when I went to his hospital room, like he had the Sandman trade he was reading for the next book of the month we were doing, for example. And I don't mean this to be sad. I mean this is celebratory. Like this is a guy who, so loved comics and so loved the show. And he's one of the main reasons why this show is still running. Because one of the main reasons I do this show is because of the example that he set.
I agree with that.
And sort of the, I mean, everybody plays their part, of course, but, I'll do like a goofy analogy in Ghostbusters, because Jamie would appreciate this. When Bill Murray introduces Dan Aykroyd as the heart of the Ghostbusters, ladies and gentlemen, Jamie D was the heart of CGS, as far as I'm concerned.
I can remember one of your Wild Pig shows. In between having an actual store, you had your usual set of TV monitors all around the concourse of the back issues, and his sister Shauna was on one side. And he's on the other side, and Ghostbusters starts. And the two of them from across the room yelling at each other, going line for line, back and forth, the entire freaking movie. Now, I know a lot of movies pretty well. I don't know that I've ever known one that well with somebody else that they could go back and forth the entire length of the movie. It was a riot. It's fabulous.
Yep. So, I just wanted to share that because it just says so much about who he was and what the show meant to him.
Well, and when we all went to the hospital to visit him, and we're all like nothing is wrong. Everybody's teasing the shit out of him like crazy, and very slowly this middle finger rises.
That's right. That's right.
I nearly died laughing. Peed myself. Whatever you want to say. Oh my God.
And didn't he give Kevin shit when he came in?
Oh yeah, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I think it was. I think it was like, am I hallucinating? Because what's Kevin doing here?
Infamous,
so
Kevin who?
at death's door, the man did not lose his barbed sense of humor.
No,
which was
no, he didn't.
So intrinsic to his character.
Hey guys, first off, I want to say love the show. Been listening for years now. And although I've never met any of y'all personally, Jamie D has had a huge effect on my comic reading experience. If it wasn't for him constantly promoting and talking about it and expressing his love for it, I never would have picked up Strangers in Paradise, which since reading it has become my all-time favorite. I'd seen the books on shelves for years and was curious, but then after hearing such high praise, I was in Kilgore Books one day here in Denver and saw a few pocket editions and picked them up, and the rest is history. And I guess that's how Jamie affected me the most. And being a cancer survivor myself, I when remembering other brothers and sisters who have fallen to such a awful disease, I like to take moments like this to remember that each day that we live is a testimony to what they gave in their lives. And anyways, thanks Jamie D, thanks Comic Geeks. I'll keep listening if y'all keep playing them. This is your friend in Denver, Dominic.
Hi, this is a voicemail message for Pants and CGS for the Jamie D episode coming up. This is Paul Scoopridges calling from Toronto, Canada. I've a long time listening to the show for years and years and went back listening to all the old episodes when you first came to Canada. And it was always my great pleasure when I finally met Jamie D at Fan Expo several years ago. And he was super nice, super gentlemanlike, just talking to him about geek stuff. He didn't disagree with you. He was super nice about it. And I had the pleasure a year later when you guys came back to introduce my wife to Jamie D. And she was also really nice and cool to talk with as well. And then the second last time he came to Canada, I was at the booth talking to him and walking by with some people dressed as Hogwarts students. And I ended up talking to a couple of them too. And next thing you know, I became good friends with Alex and Sammy. And I'm still good friends with them to this day and brought them by the booth to talk to Jamie D last time he was in Canada. And it was really cool the fact that, all these friendships came about because of just knowing him, and then people that Alex and Sammy met through me, etc. It's like a whole 6 degree separation, as Alex put it. And they really liked talking to Jamie D a lot as well, those two did. And, it's just really cool because he's always wanted to bring people together and talk to people. And, I even had the pleasure of breaking bread with him at one of our after parties. And that was always something really, really awesome about him. And I still miss him to this day. So, happy birthday, Jamie D, wherever you are now. Thank you.
Hey guys, this is John Davis, Match Kit John on the forums, and I just want to wish Jamie D a very happy 50th birthday. We love you, big guy. And I just want to use as my memory, episode 297 was a very important episode in CGS history because it was the first one that had either Brian Beamer or Peter Rios as the host on the show. They were off getting ready for episode 300, so Jamie D, Taz, and Shane were holding it down. They were having great talks, of course, about comics, and also going over the 2007-2008 TV season, which was kind of weird because there was hardly any kind of geek culture shows on at that time, no Walking Dead or Game of Thrones. And, I think Jamie D mentioned on the show, and I can kind of say it for myself, that we had bodies that were made for watching television. So it was really good to hear him talk about that. And then also there was Terry Moore talk, because you guys are going to have Terry Moore on in episode 301. It was a really great episode because it just showed like where, once, Peter left the show and Brian Damer's kind of been on hiatus, is that, you guys just kept it going. And Jamie Jamie D wanted to keep the show going for at least 10 years, and he really worked hard at that. And I really appreciate him for doing that. So I look forward to you guys to this episode and having more clips and memories of Jamie D. And also I look forward to you guys discussing that new Terry Moore book that's going to come out that's going to have an ape in it, because we all know Jamie D loved apes. So anyway, once again, happy 50th, Jamie D. We love you. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Dan, do you have anything else you want to add at all? Or?
No, I feel like I'm just going to cry hysterically if I talk.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's why I didn't. I listened to all the clips already. I didn't just want to play them because some of them were kind of like, I don't know.
I would cry. I would have to stop and leave the room because I would be a crying mess.
And you can either add this to the episode or not, but something that happens to me time and time again, especially going to the movies, more so lately, say the last 2 years of movies, where I'll start to watch something and like the oh God, what was it? I think The Amazing Spider-Man, that terrible movie. I took.
You mean the second one?
Yes, I took Ben and his friend to go see it, and I think that was just after he passed. And I sat in the theater and went, "Oh, this is the first one he's not going to see," and I can't even talk to him about how terrible it was. Or even just recently, and I did almost lose it. And normally I can keep it pretty well together. You know, I might get sad, I might tear up, but I usually don't just outright almost burst. And I did this time when I went and saw Star Trek Beyond. I know for a fact how much he loved that new theme song, the way the orchestra played it, the way the brass comes into it, and and I'm sitting here in the beginning of the movie, and that's how the movie starts. You know, it has this little clip, and then the music comes on, and it hit. I'm like, oh man, Jamie really loved that. And then it hit me. This is the first one I can't talk to him about. So that kind of bummed me out for a little bit. But like when I say that stuff like that happens all the time, I mean all the time. I'll hear anything like that, and I'll just remember him talking about it or liking it or saying something about it, or I played that in school or I did that, and It just washes over me with so much like so many times I want to pick up the phone or send a text. I'm like, because it's something we would talk about.
Yeah, I still have his number in my phone.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, I absolutely do. I won't get rid of that.
I won't get rid of that. Yeah.
No. Every now and then I look at his Facebook page because that's still all up there. I was just listening to them. Gosh, maybe a month ago. I re-downloaded all the Strangers in Paradise Book of the Month. I was listening through all them. Yep. And at one part he sits there and I'm just sitting back enjoying that all these, basically saying dipsticks finally got on board and read this thing. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
well, Shane, I'm envious of you and Pants and the rest of the cast members because I got to know Jamie for 8 years. And I cherish that, but you guys got to know him a hell of a lot, like back into the 1990s.
Yeah, it would be 20 years this year.
When you tell these stories, and I've heard many of them many times, I never tire of hearing them, and I'm envious because, I'm sure I speak for Danielle here, I'm envious because you got just so much more of that Jamie D goodness, so to speak. And I have, in my kitchen, you may have seen this, I have like a collage of pictures on one wall, different parts of family and friends, and I have a picture of him, which Shauna gave me, where he's sitting next to, I think, Paddington the bear in England.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever I go by it, I always kind of get like a little love tap with my finger. And, you know, I think about him every day as well. And I'm just very grateful that I got to know him for as long as I did for all the reasons we've been talking about. And I mean, I don't want to make Danielle cry, but, like, I know how much he cherished his friendship with her, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, like... I feel I'm jealous because I didn't get to know him as well. And I didn't even get to hang out with him as much. But, like, I felt such a kinship with him. And I was very motherly and overprotective of him all the time. Like, anytime we were at a show together at one of the CGS Super shows, or I knew he was coming to the store, I always packed extra snacks to make sure he was eating because of the diabetes, because I had a very close family friend who died of that. And I was just very like, have you eaten yet? Sit down. I'm going to get you something. Like, I was so, like, overly motherly about him. Like, I get like that with certain people. And he was definitely that person. And he always called me his sister, which I thought was, always really sweet. But I remember when it was announced on the show that he had cancer. And I think it was like a week or two later, we were all going to be at that little tiny show in Pennsylvania in the Antique Mall.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I remember he couldn't make it because I think he was in the hospital or something. And I remember I had gone to the store and put together a care package of, like, puzzle books, Sudoku, pens, pencils, logic puzzles, and then like a little Spider-Man toy and a card, and I had all of us Wild Pig people sign it. And I remember I dropped it off at the booth to make sure that he got it, because I wanted to make sure that he had something to do while he was at chemotherapy. And I remember the next time I saw him, I asked him if he had gotten our care package, and he looked at me, he's like, come on now. I know that was all you. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I want to never. But, like, he knew that I was the one who had, made sure to, but I always made sure that, he was taking care of himself and always yelling at him. And I think this is so weird, but the one day that always, since he passed away, the one day that I always break down and cry is Mother's Day. And it's because every Mother's Day since we had gotten Selena, he would text me and say, Happy Mother's Day, because four-legged creatures, you're a mom too. In the past, I guess 2 Mother's Days, last Mother's Day, I was a wreck because I was like, I'm not getting that text message anymore. And also, the other thing that killed me, I know I'm being depressing, but he couldn't be at my wedding. That was one of the hardest things, because I was able to send him a save the date. And when I had to send out the invitations, when I was writing them out, I had to delete his name off the Excel spreadsheet. And that killed me, because I feel like if he could have held on a couple more months, and this is so selfish of me, but God, I wanted him at my wedding, because he would have appreciated it and loved the hell out of it. And that killed me.
Well, that reminds me of how he acted at my wedding. He was like standing up and boogieing and so forth.
Yeah.
And, it was classic Jamie D.
There's a great picture, and this is selfish of me. There's a great picture of him and I at Matt's wedding, just sitting, and somehow no one's around, and I have no idea, because there are plenty of people everywhere, but there's just this picture of him and I sitting at the table, smiling and laughing. That's one of my favorite pictures that we have. The other one, which is great, was I think the last Baltimore we went to. I took a couple selfies, and every year I'll put that up at some point on my wall as my profile picture or something. It's just our 2 big, huge faces just right in the camera with these huge smiles on. They were a lot of fun. He always loved getting a picture and smiling and acting kind of goofy. Never afraid to be goofy. Dance around, do a jig, whatever. They were a lot of fun to take and do.
Hey everyone, it's Brian Deemer here. Just a couple days before Pants sent out this email asking for us to talk about Jamie in celebration of his 50th birthday, I got a time hop on my phone, that app that shows you all your old pictures from a year ago or 2 years ago, or so on and so forth. And 5 years ago, there was a picture of us hanging out at Murd's Beach House, sitting around the table, all of us playing a game. I don't even know what game it was, doesn't matter. And there was Jamie at the head of the table, in his spot, looking happy. And I was thinking, I'm like, wow, 5 years ago, he was already sick. That was the summer after the first London convention, so he had already been pretty sick, and he was starting to go into remission at that point. And so everyone was in much better mood. He was feeling better, had the energy to be down at the beach. And, it made me really sad. There was my friend of 20-some years, whatever. And he wasn't around anymore. And I think about that. Every once in a while it hits me. Something on Facebook or just some memory in life just triggers. And it sucks. Of all the guys here, I knew Jamie first. He was my oldest comic book friend, right? And it's weird. Shauna's practically my sister, too. We spent a lot of time when Shauna worked at the comic book store, too. We got stuck together, I think, like a lot of Friday nights, just the two of us working. And I know she'll miss her brother forever. And I miss my brother, too, right? Because he was as close to a brother as anybody could get. And he taught me it was okay to love comics and be a geek. He set an example for me, and it was great. It changed my life. I don't think, I certainly wouldn't be doing CGS if it wasn't for Jamie. If Jamie didn't get me the job at the comic book store, I wouldn't know any of you fools. And there wouldn't be CGS, and we wouldn't know any of the audience members and all the cool people out there and all the relationships and friendships and everything that have happened over the years. It basically boils down to Jamie. And that's kind of awesome. And it's weird thinking that he'd be 50. 50 sounds substantial, right? And then I realize I'm not that far behind. And, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying here, people. This is kind of a weird thing for me. I mean, of course I want to talk about Jamie, my oldest, dearest friend, but I don't even really know what to say, right? It was the first time in my life that I lost a friend. Of course, I've had grandparents and, that kind of thing. But the first time that a friend died, and that's kind of a weird thing to get used to. He was, with me for so much of my life, so many poignant moments of my life that it's strange. And all the gaming that I do, Jamie and I were always gaming. I remember all those nights that Scott Powers and Bill Vito would come over to my house with Jamie, and we would play Mahjong for hours every Sunday night, just hours of Mahjong. And we would always have Cool Ranch Doritos and Country Time lemonade in a can. Like, of all the weird things, that was like what we ate every Sunday night when we played Mahjong. And yeah, it was so weird. And that's when Bill introduced us to Magic. First saw Magic cards then. I don't know, just so many things. He was a good guy, and he always did right by me. And I will obviously always remember him very fondly. And I'm so happy that we did CGS, because I have like 1,000 hours of my best friend's voice recorded, and I can go back and listen to it anytime. Most people don't have that. Even old videotapes and whatever we have of our family picnics and that kind of stuff. We don't have 1,000 hours of our grandfather or our aunt or whomever. But I got 1,000 hours of Jamie, and that's pretty rad. And I should periodically go through and listen to those recordings and keep some of those memories fresh. I'm sure we go back and listen to some of the stories that he told. I probably don't remember it the way he told it, and I'm probably forgetting details, and that's pretty cool. So I'll just say thank you to my friend Jamie for teaching me it was okay to love comics and helping me through life when I was a stupid teenager and a dumb kid in college, and giving me advice that I needed when I needed it, and introducing me to all these people and getting me the job with Lamb at Golden Eagle and taking care of me when I needed somebody to take care of me. I love you, Jamie, and everyone out there who has a friend. If you haven't spoken to him for a while, it's never too late. Send an email, pick up the phone, whatever. And let's all go back and listen to a couple of our favorite Jamie episodes. There's plenty of them. All right, Pants. Guys, keep at it.
Well, looks like it's old Murd's turn to say his piece in memoriam. Well, not exactly memoriam. I mean, this is, after all, not... we've already had the funereal observances for Jamie, but this is my contribution to the Jamie D. Golden Jubilee, celebrating 50 years of... Well, unfortunately, we didn't get to celebrate 50 years of life for Jamie, but 50 years of presence and influence of this dear old gentleman here on this green planet Earth, both among the comics community, the comic geek speak community, and just about everybody else in the other non-geeky sectors of life whose lives intersected his and whom he touched in a positive way. And you know there were many. I haven't known Jamie as long as most of the other guys in the group, and I always feel like I've somehow missed out in that respect. You know, I certainly can't compare with Brian Deemer's track record of friendship with Jamie. He got more time than any of us. Kind of envy him that. But yeah, I got to know Jamie 11 years ago, as of now. My first, I think the first time I met Jamie was also the first time I recorded a Comic Geek Speak episode. You know, my distant cousin and friend Matt brought me in as kind of a ringer for CGS at that time in the... it was late spring, summer 2005. The show was only a few months old back in those days. I came on board for the Batman Begins movie review episode and one other thing that we happened to record that afternoon in Brian Deemer's study where CGS was recorded in those days. And there was Jamie in amongst the other guys. And even back then I could sense, you know, I'm going to use a Jamie word here, the gravitas about him. You know, he just seemed so calm and serene and grounded, and well, the more extreme personalities around him strutted and fretted and shrieked occasionally. He just kind of sat there and grinned and chuckled and prepared to mediate and bring things back down to earth when necessary. And then Jamie was always very good at that. He right off the bat almost, like maybe the second or third time I was actually present in the studio recording stuff with the other guys. And, you know, we, other than Matt, you got to remember, I'd had random encounters with a few of the other CGSers prior to this, but I didn't really get to know any of them except Matt until I became a part of this podcast, when we all, you know, became involved in this project of ours, and friendships sort of took root as a result of that. And, well, Jamie was, I think, one of the first of the guys to really understand how I ticked as a person. He just had a very strong sense of people. You know, he just seemed to understand so much. I mean, not only about these little pop cultural texts that we make the focus of our attention here on this podcast and in the course of our daily lives in general. He understood comics, he understood old movies. There were a lot of old novel series and things that he had read and knew well, but he just understood people really well too. And that, I think, was, in the long run, I don't think anybody would disagree with me here, even more valuable. And it's an understanding that, unfortunately, a lot of us here in CGS, much as we love each other and love reaching out to our listeners and vice versa, we just... With the exception of Peter, I think, who probably has the strongest social intelligence of anyone, Jamie outclassed all of us. He understood people. He understood how to talk to people. He understood why to talk to people. And he made use of that knowledge in the most beneficial ways imaginable. Whenever we went around to conventions, even when he was having a hard time walking without the use of a cane or one of our shoulders to lean on, he would still make the rounds, and he would talk to everyone behind their respective tables and booths. And he did it not just out of some sense of obligation. He did not just, keep connections active. He did it because he wanted to. He did it because he really enjoyed talking to these people. He did it because he liked having that many friends, and he did it because he liked the exchange of ideas and the opportunity to learn from others and to have them learn from him. And he just kind of liked shooting the breeze, you know. he was an Italian after all, and so he had the that gift of gab, that penchant for BS that seemed to come with that ethnic heritage of his. And it was this understanding that right off the bat helped him understand what it was, my particular stripe of strangeness. And he was able to reach out to me. And when I was doing things that seemed kind of strange and off-putting to some of the other guys, Jamie just kind of looked at them and said, yeah, he's here, he's amused, but if they thought that maybe I was being withdrawn because of something they'd said or something they'd done, Jamie said, no, it's nothing to do with us. And he had that insight not very long after meeting me, really. And I was always very impressed by that. And I was even more impressed as the weeks, months, and years wore on, and Jamie and I realized just how much we did have in common. It's in general tastes in entertainment and other things, and just the way we looked at the world. We had Broadway musicals in common. We had Disney entertainment in common. Monty Python, Mel Brooks movies. I remember in particular, if one of the aims of these little segments that we're all recording here is to share favorite memories of Jamie, I particularly treasure one car trip that the two of us had, just doing the Hope and Crosby thing, kind of like Pants and I do down to Charlotte, North Carolina for Heroes Con every year these days. One year, he and I were alone in my Volvo driving out to Pittsburgh for the Pittsburgh Con, and we had the opportunity to talk at length about a lot of stuff. And so we talked about musicals and how Jamie was enjoying the serious Broadway musical channel. We talked about Avenue Q. We made arrangements for him to borrow my copy of the Avenue Q soundtrack, which he'd heard a few snippets from it on Sirius and wanted to hear the whole thing for himself. We talked about Disney live-action films of the 60s and 70s, and Jamie's a real go-to guy for that stuff, like an omnibus expert on the subject of Disney's live-action material. My favorite was always Bedknobs and Broomsticks, so we talked for a bit about that and on the various things that David Tomlinson did for Disney during those decades. We talked about his family. We talked about his late mother. We talked about certain schisms that had happened in his family over the years, stuff that I had never known and stuff that I won't repeat here in a public forum, but still, it was just really neat getting to know Jamie that deeply and just having that one-on-one time with him. And of course, I think I actually kind of scared him out of his wits on the drive back, because I'm probably not going to take the prize for the best, most responsible motorist of the CGS family. I'm fairly conscientious, but I'm easily distracted. Let's just put it that way. And so I noticed that neither he nor any of the other CGS guys have really gone out of their way to allow me to drive to any events since that time. Probably on Jamie's say-so. But, yeah, Jamie was... And it goes without saying that Jamie was a really special guy. And he was like a big brother to, I think, every single member of the CGS family, with the possible exception of Kevin, who I think is actually, I think he might be a month or two older than Jamie. They're very close to one another in age. But for the rest of us, at one time or another, he took us under his wing and shared a little bit of his wisdom, because, as I said, he did have his share of wisdom to share. I mean, there have been times in the show's past when there was some little debate as to which of the CGS co-hosts was actually the smartest. And there have been talk of Deemer being that. There's been talk of Peter being that. There's been talk of even Pants being that. There's been talk of myself being that. And since there are, I've always been a subscriber to Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, so there's opportunity for all of us in our own ways to be the smartest in some respect. But Jamie, I think, regardless of who takes the cake for most intelligent geek, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Jamie was the wisest of us. It went beyond just simple storing of information in our little brains and being able to perform creative operations on it and all of that. There were things that Jamie just sensed and knew how to do, and especially his social instincts and his emotional instincts. And for all that, I'm not trying to beatify the guy here. I'm not making him out to be an applicant for sainthood. He'd call BS on that before anybody else would. I mean, as much as Jamie had the capacity to be hot-headed and headstrong and irrational at times, or just plain wrong on occasion, too. I'm sure a lot of you who've listened to CGS episodes and have been shouting at your iPods at some of the things Jamie has said, some of the opinions he's expressed. Even though he had that capacity as well, he was often so right about so many things, too. And just... And I just miss how level-headed he could at times be when he wasn't keeping a list of people whose tender parts he wanted to kick, the legendary list, or when he wasn't, expressing unpopular and controversial opinions about DMZ or what have you. He just got so much about comics, about people, about life. And I miss having him here to share that with us. I miss having him at Stone Harbor for our CGS by the Sea gatherings, which I know he enjoyed in particular. And just being out there on our front porch of our house in Stone Harbor, getting up early as he tended to do. And he always claimed one of the lazy boy recliners we have in our house down there on the lower level to sleep in. And he would go out fairly early in the morning onto the front porch, just enjoy the cool breeze, take a comic out there. Sometimes my mother, who also has, over the past few years, been in the habit of getting up early, she would, for different reasons, she would get down there and find him awake on the porch, and she'd fire up a Thomas English muffin and just sit down on the porch out there with him and have long talks, too, about politics and life, and just share a few of their own opinions and observations on things. And I know my mother and Jamie both enjoyed those times very much. And later on in the days, when the rest of us would get down there, we would tend to set aside a certain amount of time on a golden Saturday evening to just sit out there on that porch and read some comics together. And that was CGS family time at its finest, and Jamie was right there at the center of it, like a beloved uncle or grandfather figure, and he'd slap me upside the head for making him sound older than he was, but this is his 50th birthday after all. Got to roast the guy a little bit, living or dead. We got to get in our shots on Jamie. Yeah. So, yeah, we miss him terribly. There's no way around that. And even now, I'm glad I got the opportunity to come in here and record this from the CGS studio instead of remotely from Stone Harbor, because I am actually sitting right now in the seat that Jamie used to occupy when he was around and able to participate in person in these recordings instead of simply in spirit, as he's been doing for the past 2 years. And, you never do cease to feel him with you when you do the things that we do, and we've shared as many thoughts and feelings with one another as we have. And, well, even to this day, whenever I read a comic that I know Jamie would have liked, or when I even read a preview solicitation describing something that I think Jamie would have liked, I can't help but have an impression of him leaping to the surface of my mind, and I usually do mention it on an episode if we happen to be recording one at that moment, and make mention of the fact that Jamie continues to be with us. He continues to exert that positive influence on all of us, and I'm quite sure that he does the same with those whose lives he's touched outside of geek circles. I mean, just look at his family, his sister Shauna, his dad, his little nieces and nephew, his brother-in-law. And I got a chance to listen to what Brian Deemer recorded for his own little Jamie semi-centennial tribute here, and I must echo what he said, that how lucky we are, how much luckier we are than most people who lose loved ones, that we were able to capture thousands of hours of the man's voice just talking and laughing along with us and being himself. Not everybody gets that, and I'm also glad that we've been able to do the CGS thing not just for our own sakes, but for the thousands of people who, thanks to Comic Geek Speak, got to know Jamie, even if they never got the chance to meet him. At least admitted him into their ears via iPod, and got to know his thoughts and feelings, and got to know him as a person, got to let him shape their reading habits and share a little bit of his wisdom with them. Jamie got to be shared with the world, so we just know that there are that many more people who are getting a little bit dewy-eyed here on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of his birth. So let's just get out there, read some good comics, consume some popular culture of which Jamie would approve, and just take some time to talk it over with a friend after you're done. That's I think, the best way to celebrate what Jamie's done for all of us. It's the way we keep him alive in our hearts, after all. So, happy birthday, brother mine, brother from another mother. We're all missing you down here.
I loved watching Doctor Who and talking with him. And needling
That's
you.
also Yeah. Sorry, you can keep going.
Just needling Pants a little bit about not watching Doctor Who, and then Pants went headstrong into Doctor Who.
I just remember the time that we did the Doctor Who episode, and I got there early, and Jamie and I went out to have coffee and just hang out, just the two of us, because we really didn't have a chance to do that.
Yeah.
And I remember we were really late getting back. We looked at our phone and we're like, oh crap, we gotta go. Like we're
I remember
shit,
that.
we're late. And Pants is gonna be angry. And then I think I remember listening to the episode and you can hear Pants going like, they're still at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, I got like that a little bit, but that's just me. Well, as I wipe away the tears here,
Don't cry, you're gonna make me cry and I can't hug you.
I'm sorry. It wasn't it's not my intention to have a sad episode. It's going to be a say the word.
Celebratory.
It is celebratory, Pants.
Yeah, I think it is.
So, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that a lot of listeners who might have, because we always get new listeners all the time.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people out there who don't know who Jamie is and wonder why we always mention him on the shows.
Yeah, take some time and go back to some of those old episodes.
Those are just...
If you listen to those episodes, especially spotlighty ones, if you go to Jamie's Essentials, if you listen to the Strangers ones, the DMC episode, you're going to learn who Jamie was.
Oh, yeah.
All of those episodes. That's him right there. There's nothing hidden. There's the echo. It's who he was and what he liked. Another good one, I think, is the Star Trek Star Wars debate. The whole which one is better. That's a great episode to listen to, too.
And Superman 1 versus Superman 2.
Superman, yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, if you're newer, go back and check some of those out. Not necessarily to listen to the rest of us schmoes, but yeah, to learn a little bit about Jamie, that's all you have to do is listen to those episodes.
So
you're here
again. Thank you all for helping us out and listening, and just happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Hi, this is Socrates in Miami. I really enjoyed the Drunk Cap calls, where Drunk Cap would call Jamie Jeremy. I thought it was just hilarious. All those calls would bring me to tears. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
I've been procrastinating because sometimes I don't know what to say. I'm sorry if you can hear the traffic in the background. I pulled the van over. You know, I've been hearing that this was the birthday where Jeremy would have been 15. 15 years old. It's a good age for a boy to be. I was remembering back when, around the time Bucky was 15, and in the summer, I remember we went to a kind of cookout, sort of a, holiday weekend thing, invitation only, very, very hush-hush. And it was good. They had all the food that they were cooking and nice cold beers. And the boys all had their little brown shorts on, and they were playing, baseball or whatnot. And we had the cookout, and we sang some songs. And then they unfurled the big flag with the scary face and the tentacles on it, and we all saluted the flag and talked about taking over the world. Now that I think about it, that probably was not an appropriate place to take Bucky. It's not where I should take Jeremy. If Jeremy could come to a party, it was a secret party. It's fine. I don't remember if Bucky was there. I think he was there, but he was probably hiding behind the bandstand the way he did at that age, whenever he'd get out of your sight and just whack away like a little monkey. Yes, boy, 15, you can't blame him.
Well, I wanted to say happy birthday, Jeremy, and I miss you. And that's all there is to say.
A few days ago, Gene Colan passed away. It was on Thursday night. And Jamie, you want to talk a little bit about that, since you probably one of his biggest fans of the room?
When we first talked to me, I knew who he was. I appreciated his artwork, not as much as I have come to. We got him on the show, and it was around the time that we were doing, right after we had done the Tomb of Dracula Book of the Month Club. And we talked to him, and we just had a regular interview with him. And that's kind of where I kind of fell in love with the man. Had the great pleasure of meeting him that year, right after we did the interview. We got a chance to meet him at the first New York Comic Con. Yeah. His wife at the time, and she unfortunately has passed away before Gene did, told us how much that interview meant to him. And it almost felt to me like after we did that interview with him, he almost, experienced a renaissance. Because it was just weird that we did that interview. We got the word out about him. He seemed to get a lot of commission requests from that. Yeah. I mean, the year after that, he was at New York. Again, I went up to him, talked to him a little bit. He kind of remembered me. And then he went through a period where he wasn't feeling so well. He had kind of relapsed into some of his ailments, and not last year's New York Comic Con, but the year before. So it wouldn't have been 2010, but 2009. I was up with everybody, and Gene Colan was in at that one, and I got a chance. I stood in line. I had my book with me, my History of the Marvel Universe book, the big puffy hardcover one and I got him to sign it, and he didn't remember me. And I kind of figured after all those years, he probably wouldn't. He talks to so many people, he wouldn't have remembered me. But as soon as I said CG, because I said I'm Jamie from CGS, he kind of looked at his wife. CGS, the podcast that you were on. Click, the light went on. Again, I was his best buddy. How you doing? How are things going? Great to see you. And it was really neat to get a chance to talk to him one last time. I didn't know it was one last time, but I got a chance to talk to him again and just feel that, that love that he seemed to put out there to everybody. So I just always thought, that's just one of the things I always think. You never take a chance that you're going to get a chance to meet him again. I mean, right. if you love you love the person's artwork, you love the person's writing, he means something to you. He's changed your life somehow. You read his book and, oh my God, it changed my life. And you get a chance to meet him. Take that chance. Don't walk away. I won't say don't get scared, because I understand that, because I get nervous too, even now talking to people who I don't really know. But still, you'll feel so much better when you walk away, letting them know, and at times they'll feel better too. I mean, Gene Colan's a perfect example of this. If you listen to Peter Reed put up the interview, you listen to the interview, and I said something to Gene about how his artwork now is as popular as ever, and because we got so much feedback about Gene's artwork in the Tomb of Dracula episode, how much they loved it. Oh my God, this in black and white, this artwork is fabulous. I didn't know Gene Colan. I'm going to now go out and get everything I can. I told him that, and the sound in his voice where he was like, really? And I'm like, I'm sitting there and thinking to myself, dude, you're Gene Colan. So don't take it for granted that they know. Because, I mean, we've dealt with enough writers and artist type people who are very insecure with their artwork and I could have done so much better. Get away from me. That's perfect. Just tell them. Let them know, because believe me, as much as it's going to mean to you, it's probably going to mean 10 times as much to them.